Dolphin was released for the Atari 2600 in 1983. You play as a dolphin who is trying to evade a giant squid. It's an auto-scroller, so you'll always be in swim mode, and you have to navigate your way through the small gaps in the walls of seahorses that continuously appear. God damn, there are a lot of them and nothing else in this part of the ocean, with the exception of the dolphin and the squid. The squid will gain on you if you make contact with one of the seahorses, which doesn't slow you down so much as it moves you back a peg in your distance from the squid. Same thing happens if you hit a back current, which is indicated by the arrows pointing towards you. You'll obviously want to avoid these too. Thankfully, there are also forward currents that will move you ahead of the squid. One thing about the currents, though, is that the squid can catch up or fall behind by landing on these arrows. So if you want to risk it for the biscuit, you can lure the bastard into one of the back currents. Your other helpful tool is the seagull that'll show up every once in a while above the surface. If you swim up and make contact with it, you'll become invincible and send the squid packing. The big selling point in this game is the sound. You have to keep an ear out for the dolphin's sonar signal, which indicates where the opening in the upcoming seahorse wall is. If you hear a higher pitch, the gap will be up toward the surface, and a lower pitch means it's closer to the ocean floor. There are 5 different frequencies, so naturally there are 5 different opening spots. You'll also hear the seagull when it appears on screen. So even if you're visually focusing on the shit in front of you, you'll know the seagull is around. It is pretty cool that the sound of the game is as important as it is. You never really hear about that in games of this era. Although if you're listening to music while playing, you're going to want to keep the game's audio up high enough to catch all the cues. Although the constant sonar tones start to make you feel like you're taking one of those fucking hearing tests with the headphones where they gradually turn the volume down and you eventually start hearing auditory illusions when the sounds get ridiculously faint. At least in this game, the volume of these sonar signals stays at a steady pace. And speaking of hearing tests, if you're hard of hearing, then this game isn't for you. The difficulty does increase as the game goes on. There'll be more back currents, the seagull will fly by faster, and the speed and AI of the squid will increase. This will be indicated when it changes colors. One thing you can do to counteract this shit is to change direction. At any point, you can decide to swim in the opposite direction. And the best part is, if the squid is closing in on you when you do this, you'll actually distance yourself further away from him. So this is a very useful technique. Just make sure you're not parallel to the squid when you do this. There is a bit of a lack of variety, though. Like I said earlier, besides you and the squid, the only other living creatures you'll encounter are the seahorses, and once in a while the seagull. There really could have been 1 or 2 more distinct hazards. There's not a lot in the way of game variations either. You can toggle 2 variations of how quickly your invincibility wears off, and you can increase the difficulty of the squid, which naturally happens in the game anyway. There's no actual 2-player mode either, just an alternating mode, which I've always felt is a cheap-ass way to advertise your game as multiplayer. With this lack of variety, you would think that Dolphin would get old fast, but it's more addicting than you would think. It's simple, has good controls, decent graphics, and a pretty unique approach with the whole use-your-ears mechanism. Overall, a solid game.
They call him Flipper, Flipper, faster than lightning. No one you see is smarter than he.